change the whole routine for automatically added an hour to it.
I don't think I gave you a thumbs up. Can't remember. Next time. I don't want everybody. No, Johnny's here. He'll be right to vote.
Okay, we will call this meeting to order, regular council meeting for September the 11th. It's 3 p.m. And begin with a land acknowledgement. The town of Innisfail acknowledges that we are meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, Siksika, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3 within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived and cared for these lands for generations, and we are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on. So we will move into 2.1. Are there any additions or deletions? No? Can I please have someone make a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll move the agenda as presented.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bates. All in favor? Okay, thank you. And we'll move into 3.1, the agenda and priorities meeting for September the 5th. Councillor Wing.
Mayor Barclay, I would move those minutes.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any discussion or changes to them? No? All in favor? Okay, carried. And then 3.2, the regular council meeting minutes. Councillor Heistad.
Your Worship, I'll pass the regular council meeting minutes for August 28th.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? All right, carried. Thanks. And I'll ask CEO Becker to please welcome our delegation today.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. Last week, I had a quick conversation with Staff Sergeant Imy just regarding the newly formulated Citizens on Patrol. We both felt it was a great opportunity to have the members of the Innisfail COP to come before council to introduce themselves and talk about what they're up to and how they're formulated and where they're going. But also there is an ask of council forthcoming to you. But I'd like to introduce to you Azita Sellers, who is the part of the Innisfail Citizens on Patrol. So Azita, if you'd like to come up.
Hi. Oh, thank you. I was voted in as president of the Innisfail Citizen on Patrol. We have 10 active members right now. We have 2 that are in limbo. They're in the application process right now. And so we're basically assisting with the RCMP. We're basically the eyes in the community to report anything that we see going on. We have sent all our documents to Government of Canada for registration. And so we're just waiting for our registration number back, which we were in contact with them a couple days ago, and they said it should be within the next couple weeks. And other than that, we are waiting for that, and then we start our training, and then we'll be out patrolling. So we are basically just here to ask if we can get a room in the arena for our monthly meetings.
Okay, thank you, Izetta. Just a question, so when you start patrolling, like will you patrol in shifts, or how have you planned that far yet?
Yes, the Citizens on Patrol, we have like a special app with a COPA, and we basically go in there and we can pick different shifts, and we always go out in pairs. We will never be going out alone. So yeah, we'll be picking shifts and kind of going out there, and we'll be in communication with the RCMP when we're going out and for how long and stuff like that. So
Great. And like evening shifts, or like?
it kind of sounds like we'll have a range of some day shifts and some evening shifts. It kind of depends on what the members can do.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's great. Thank you for all the organizational efforts, and it's great to see this getting off the ground. So.
For sure.
Councillor Bates.
Yeah, the one question I have is, so do you do both, like walking through facilities when there's things happening and then driving, or what do you?
We'll mainly be driving, just for keeping our members safe, but they can go out and patrol. I started off with the Red Deer Citizens on Patrol, and they do a lot more foot patrol, but you kind of start out in your vehicle until everyone gets comfortable. Like, if there's going to be events, we can basically get members to volunteer to patrol the event. So
Yeah, that's what I meant.
we'll be out, yeah.
Great. So, and if we hear of somebody that's interested, just give them your name or?
Yeah, send them my way. We also have an email that they can also email to and get the application right online.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Harrison?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, and thank you, Lizette, for the short presentation. A couple of things. You had mentioned training. I would ask, maybe you could enlighten us on what the training involves. And secondly, when you're out on patrol, how do you communicate with the RCMP or whomever when you have an infraction or a perceived infraction that you witness? Thank you.
For sure. Yeah, ACOPA sets out a training program for us that we get to take online. And it basically goes over the safety of the members and what we are. We are basically just eyes. We are not to, try to be the police and involve ourselves into anything, get into any danger. The way we communicate with the RCMP is, again, there is an ACOPA app that we all have on our phones, and we literally just go onto that app and we can download videos or take pictures or anything like that, and then it gets submitted right to the RCMP. So it's basically a file that they get. Yeah, and then we also have WhatsApp that we're constantly text messaging basically with RCMP members that we do know.
Supplementary, and maybe it's too soon to think about this, but budget, you're going to have to be identified. Is there a uniform that you'll be wearing? Who covers the cost of the apps and all of that stuff, or will that come with your action plan down the road?
ACOPA app is actually free for us to use. It's part of our membership that we do. And for the rest of it, we'll be basically fundraising for money so that we can pay for things. And we will be wearing a vest. Pretty much, Red Deer has I think they have blue vest, Penhold, COP, they have a black and gray vest. And we were looking at staying to the Innisfail colors of blue as well. So we will be wearing identify blue vest with our COP logo on it. We will also have, magnetic stickers basically for our vehicles, so they're also identifiable.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Councillor Wing?
Thank you. Thanks for your presentation.
Thanks.
Just one question. So our RCMP have a region that they patrol, not just the town. Will you just be patrolling in the town, or will you be out in the county as well?
We'll mainly be just in the town. We kind of want to focus on this area, and then we'll kind of start branching out a little bit further, but mainly in the town, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming. And yeah. Do you have any questions?
And not
See
questions,
whatever- okay.
only where you want to maybe
Yeah.
sit. You can either put it on the agenda later.
Yeah.
Council, sorry we didn't tag it on the agenda later, but
Yeah.
certainly can.
I don't know. We can deal with it now if people want, or deal with it later.
Actually,
Councillor Wing?
yeah, I'd like to make a motion actually then that we provide the COP volunteers with use of the meeting room at the arena free of charge for their monthly meetings.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions about that? No, all in favor? Great, carried. Thank you. And we will move into 5.1, council action control. Does anybody have any questions about any of this? If not, well, oh, sorry.
Just a quick question on the naming recognition. I think is that for anything that goes on in the community? Like if you're naming a building or, yeah, honoring people?
I don't remember the draft of the.
Yeah, just curious.
that we
Director Vickers, you
saw
put it,
before.
I believe it's
respond?
October. That one's coming up, right?
Yep, Mayor Barkley through to Councillor Heistad. So that would be commemorative naming of like the street Not necessarily the building or anything that would be included in a sponsorship program, but more commemorative naming for streets or buildings or things like that that would get a little plaque. We are still working on the breakdown, and we'll be bringing that to you guys shortly.
Pretty soon. Okay, yeah. Thanks.
Okay, if there's no further questions, I'll please have someone make a motion to accept the action control as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried, thank you. And we will move on to 5.2 with the CAO report with CAO Becker.
Great, thank you. The report is there for council's consideration. I will highlight the third paragraph. And if council wishes more detail on a report regarding what we heard from Alberta municipalities in relation to the power of place, or not power place, what's it called? Power Plus, sorry, Power Plus. So this is, if you recall, several months ago, council gave direction to enter into an agreement with AEM to look into secure stable funding for long-term. That's the rate they came up with, is basically just shy of 7 cents per kilowatt hour versus our current rate of just over 5 cents. So obviously a little bit higher, but it is secure for a 6-year window. Administratively, we feel it's appropriate. It's stable for a longer period of time, not the 10 years that we anticipated, but decent. Again, if council wishes more detail on this, we'd certainly come back with that detail.
Yeah, it's a pretty significant increase, right? 35% increase on the power rate. And it'll be interesting to see whether the renewable projects on our buildings compensate for that, I guess. Councillor Bates.
I guess the comment I have is I'm amazed how low that is. That to me is a coup to get electricity promised till that time. I know anybody that, like lots of people that were trying to lock in because of the recent spike in the variable rates, the best I've heard is over 12 for 5 years. And I hope I get 12 a year from now. I'm betting it'll be 15 or 20. And I'm just wondering one thing, is there any caveats on that rate that say, you know, if such and such happens, this might not happen?
Councillor Bates is securing this rate for that 6-year window.
That's just amazingly good, in my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, can I please have someone accept the CEO report as presented? Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I so move the CAO report.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And then we will move into 5.3, so renewable power moratorium with Councillor Heistad.
Yeah, I asked that this be put on our agenda because of the power moratorium. I believe it's been 1 month that the provincial government has put this in place. I know that Mayor Jean Barkley's been in a number of articles, the concerns that, that are coming from council on the moratorium and how we are looking forward to working in our industrial park, having a renewable energy opportunity for us to not only make that industry park, more green, but as well as getting some revenue off the renewable energy. So I know through Alberta municipalities, there is an opportunity for us to put forward an emergent resolution if council believes that this is the next step for us. But I wanted to put it on the table just so that we can have this discussion and see where everybody else was at.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any comments? Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Just a comment. I think we discussed this at our AMP meeting a little bit, and I'd asked about are we going to send something to ensure that our application is in the hopper, and we haven't even filed an application yet. So this resolution, Councillor Heistad, would it be just that we don't support their strategy? The minister has said that anything that's comes forth is going to be looked at. Nothing will be put on hold at this time. So I'm a little confused to what this resolution might look like to present to A&M, because I don't know if they've, as a result of the letter that came out here a couple of weeks ago from the minister. So more of a question for Councillor.
No, I believe there's an opportunity, you know, I'm not only representing Innisfail or us representing Innisfail, but there's a number of communities that I believe that may feel the same way with the moratorium itself. I know that Alberta municipalities is a way to bring things forward as an issue or a concern that we do have. You know, this came out of the blue, the moratorium, and I think that this is, you know, unfortunate on the current government's, you know, the way they structured it itself. I think it limits communities like ours that want to be forward thinking. And I do believe that the Rural Municipalities Association was really pushing this on their side. So, and I believe that if we're going to bring up an emergent resolution as to how it's going to be worded or how we're going to approach it, that's a team approach, how I was looking at it. This is the body that makes that decision whether or not it goes forward.
Good, thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Bates.
I guess I would be really curious, just what would the theme of the resolution be? Because what theme would you advance that we state?
Are you asking me?
Well, you're,
Are you
yeah,
asking?
you.
Yeah, I believe we've put forward, like in the previous articles going out throughout the province, that's the theme, right? That would be the theme, that this moratorium is taking place, and it's a concern for small communities, large cities. And from what I understand and what I've read, this has been a big push from the RMA, and if the RMA is getting, you know, all the paper or the ink and being able to be influential with the provincial government, I believe that, you know, communities like ours should be able to bring forward a resolution like this so that we're, you know, both sides has an opportunity to discuss or debate it, right?
No, but what would the resolution?
I
know you won't have the exact wording.
I don't have the exact
but are you
wording.
saying that we would ask for a reversal or ask for, what? I'm trying to figure out what we would do.
Well, from my standpoint is the concern, you know, bring up the concerns that this slows down. It's an economic driver. Like we believe there's potential with revenue coming in from renewables in our industrial park. We're not the only, I'm certain we're not the only community that's wanting to move forward with some projects similar to ours. And delaying that process may mean it'll cost the communities a lot more money and time and effort and administrative work to be working on their projects.
Okay, well, I personally look at, I remember when we even decided to write our letter, there were 5 things in their reasoning for why they did it. The 5th one, which I did point out, was that they were concerned about the balance of the grid as they embarked on an awful lot of renewables and didn't have the backup for the peak hours. So I use that as one of the reasons that I think that what they're doing makes some sense. I fully supported the letter that we sent, and I think we've stated our position that we're a small cog in that wheel and that we own the land and that we would be responsible for whatever we did with our, so I think we've made our case. I personally don't want to be associated with trying to turn it over. And I look back at last week as we reviewed our strategic priorities, and government relations is one of them. I think we have a decent relationship with the government at this point in time, and I don't want to stir the pot. That's my opinion.
Okay, anybody else? Councillor Wing?
Excuse me, thank you, Mayor Barkley. I think I look at it from a bit of a different perspective than Councillor Bates. I don't look at this as pot stirring. I think I look at this as an opportunity for communities such as Innisfail, and there are others because we know from the various press and media articles that were written that there are communities who have been directly impacted. I think it's an opportunity for us to work with those communities to co-sponsor a proposed emergent resolution, to at least have the conversation at AM, whether it's adopted or not. At least there's a presentation and a conversation that especially the large communities actually start to understand that smaller communities are really impacted by the moratorium, and that small communities are really impacted by a lot of planning around alternatives. I think that if we can certainly ask for it to be lifted, or at least ask that there be concessions then for projects that are ready to have application or ready to be constructed. I mean, it sounds like there are some communities that are like even in a worse spot than we are. They were literally ready to put the shovel in the ground. So I don't know, I guess I look at this as a leadership opportunity as we position ourselves through the province with all of the work we've been doing. I think that this is a good next step for that conversation and for us to put our voice and our strength behind it. At the very least, I would hope that when we meet with our minister at the meeting at the conference in a couple of weeks, that this is front and center with that conversation, because our minister actually got us to where we are with that, with our industrial area. And so to have Minister McIver understand just what this moratorium is doing to the process and the work in that that area that he was invested in, I think that's important. So I would support at least having a conversation with other communities to see if there's an opportunity to co-sponsor an emergent resolution, and at the very least put it on the agenda for our meeting with Minister McIver. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I don't know, for me it's more about the timing. By the time I think Alberta municipalities gets around to advocating for this, the moratorium will be over, just understanding how their process works. So they have, I think it's 23 new resolutions this time. They already have a book of old resolutions that they're still working on, and what they do is they prioritize the resolutions. So whether this would be a priority for them, I'm not sure it would be, because I don't know that urban municipalities would really be impacted by this too much. I think it's more rural, and RMA supports the moratorium in the sense from, I think, assessing prime ag land being used for these developments, and that I understand. I don't know, I think we've made our message loud and clear. We've sent 5 letters to 5 different ministers. We've had articles in the news. We've been in Alberta municipalities' weekly fan out for 2 or 3 weeks in a row over this, and so I kind of agree with Councillor Bates. I mean, we've pushed it. I've talked with Minister Delegations one-on-one about it. They know, and I don't know that we need to push it any further. We can still send our application in. There's nothing stopping us from doing that. We haven't done that yet. The assessment period, from what I understand from CEO Becker, the assessment has been finished, and I believe that we can send the application into AUC. And I know even last week, towards the end of the week, they sent out another news release on changes that they're making and what they're looking at. So we can send that in, and it can go through the whole process right up to being approved. It just can't be approved. So I'm not sure how much further ahead we would be. And my biggest concern, I understand what you're saying, Councillor Heistad and Wing, but I just don't think Alberta municipalities would get around to it by the time the moratorium is over, because they typically wouldn't get advocating till probably March. And I don't know that this would be a priority at Alberta Municipalities Convention and would get majority support.
Yeah, I feel that way. I don't think it would prevent us from having a little dialogue with Minister McIver and saying, you know, oh, by the way, this certainly did affect us. But I just don't, from all the years that I've gone to AM and watched the resolutions and the debate over them, it's not a position that I personally want to take.
Councillor Heistad?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. I agree wholeheartedly with Janice's, Councillor Wing, is having those discussions with other communities that may be effective. I know that advocacy works in if there's potential for emergent resolution, as you're stating, Your Worship, Mayor Barkley, that it could be, you know, that moratorium may be lifted come March or anything like that. But how I'm looking at it is it's not about stirring the pot, but it's actually about continually to putting it in the forefront so that the current government understands its concern for communities like ours, and having that discussion with those communities may solidify whether or not this is, you know, this is an opportunity for us. But I agree how Councillor Wing wanted to approach it. I think that's, you know, that's the right way to do that. As to stirring the pot, we already have good relationships with Minister McIver, Minister Delegations, many of the ministers across the province, and we're already been in the news. What we're trying to do is exemplify other communities like us that see this as a concern. And that's how I see approaching this. It's not about, you know, making people look bad. It's actually, this is an opportunity for Innisfail and communities like ours, and it's an economic driver, and it slows the process down for us. So that's how I'm looking at it. So, thanks.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, so what would you like to do, Councillor Heistad?
I really like Councillor Wing's approach is having that conversation with other groups, or else we're in an open forum right now. We do actually vote on it, and then we know that it's.
You can make a motion.
So I'll make a motion that we send off an emergent resolution to Alberta municipalities regarding the renewable power moratorium.
Okay, thank you. And CEO Becker, do you have any information that you want to share?
Just a few comments, Mayor Barkley, just on timing. In my review of emergent resolutions, so obviously you'd make a motion as per to develop to draft a emergent resolution for council consideration, because it's your resolution, it's your resolution at AM. So your next meeting is the 25th. The confirmed, approved resolution needs to be with AM by noon on the 26th. So you need to approve it on the 25th. It needs to get to AM on the 26th by noon. Basically, the Alberta Munis Executive Committee would determine if that is proposed, if it is considered an emergent resolution, and that would be submitted to the board prior to the convention. So there's a really tight window within there just for process. So if you would move into a resolution to direct administration to draft a resolution for your consideration to come before you on the 25th, and determine if you wish to approve it. If you do approve it, it'll be submitted immediately to AM by noon the next day. So we have a 2-week window to draft a emergent resolution.
Councillor Bates?
A question in that process, do you have to have your co-sponsor on board at that point?
To Councillor Bates, it just states in the information, it says in adherence to the guidelines presented in this policy. So I would gather it has to be provided with a secondary municipality, but it doesn't say that clearly in this information.
Okay, so we have a motion for a emergent resolution. All in favor? Okay, and opposed? Okay. So do we know what other communities to reach out to? Don't have time.
We know we can go to, very easily to some of the media that's been happening over the last couple of weeks. And so, yeah, I believe probably within 5 minutes, we could have a list of the communities that have projects that will be impacted by this.
I would probably reach out to Caroline. Mayor Rimmer's been in the news the most, but. Okay. So we will move on to 6.1 and request for decision on budget deliberation day.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Barkley. So this report is just to provide council the opportunity to discuss dates for the 2024 budget deliberations. So normally we do have, we set aside 3 full days to discuss next year's proposed budget with council. These typically occur on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of the 3rd week in November. And in 23, that would be November 21st to 23rd. But any other days that work with council would be fine. But we'd like to get those ironed out so we can get them in the calendar.
Okay, so is everybody good for November 21 to 23, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? Okay, all right.
Okay.
So do you need you want a motion,
Yes,
please?
please.
Councillor Bates?
I'll move. Of course, we have 2 councillors not here, but I'll move that we set aside in our calendars November 21, 22, and 23 for budget deliberations.
Perfect, thank you. And we'll move into 6.2 with investment policy with Director Vickers again.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor Barkley. So back in January, on January 16th, at the regular council meeting, administration brought forward a draft investment policy for review and comment. The report is attached for your review. And at that meeting, council advised administration to get clarification regarding Section 6, portfolio diversification and restraints, and whether the portfolio limits were appropriate. So administration has spoken to a number of stakeholders to obtain feedback about our draft investment policy. Other research was also conducted by reviewing additional municipal investment policies and scholarly articles to help come up with our recommended revisions. Those revisions have been identified and amended in the attached draft policy. So Section 6AI is recommended to move down from the 25% initially proposed of the portfolio shall be invested in any single security down to just 10%. So an option to keep this at 20% was suggested with the provision that would only be available to a Government of Canada security. And at this time, administration is recommending it move to 10%, and it will keep in line with all other security options. So Section 6A2 is recommended from moving 35% of long-term investments, so that's maturities of 1 year or greater, shall be invested at any single issuer down to 25%. This is more in line with market and also matches our short-term investment limits as well. So diversification without some restraint can be harmful to the town's financial health. Too many diversified assets in a portfolio can lead to higher management costs and lower returns. Managing over-diversified portfolios demands more time, and it's harder to know what's happening in every industry or region to make decisions about assets. The goal of this investment policy is to maximize our return while minimizing the risk or fluctuations in our portfolio. All other sections were discussed and recommended to remain the same at this time. Once the policy is approved, a tender document will be created and posted on APC to allow all financial institutions to submit a response. So the town's investment program will likely, will need some time to be developed and implemented. Once the program is all set up, it will likely only take about 10 to 20 hours per year to manage with the help of an investor, an investment advisor or broker. So I'll take any questions you have now about the draft policy.
Right. Anybody have any questions? So Director Vickers, will you bring forward to us, maybe it'll be more at budget time, but I would like to know, like, have we done any cash flow analysis on our reserves, and can we take 50% of them or 20% or whatever and put them into longer term investments? And I mean, right now we're at a pretty sweet spot and with interest rates and locking some of that money in, and like, has any of that work been done, or?
So Mayor Barkley, no, that hasn't.
Okay.
So once this is approved and we reach out and create that tender document, we'll likely rely on the help of that broker as well to kind of go over that and make sure where is the sweet spot for us and how much to invest, how much locked away. We'll likely want to look at our long-term capital plans and cash flow analysis throughout the year as well, just to manage to see. We'll likely want some rolling, right? So that some are shorter term, some are longer term, so that, so.
Yeah. And how long do you think it would be by the time we approve this, and then how long would it be until the tender and
Mayor Barkley,
awarding the
once this
contract?
is approved, I'll probably take 2 to 3 or 4 weeks to develop the tender document and have that posted for a minimum of 2 to 4 weeks as well, and then need some prep time with that broker to get everything set up. So we're probably looking at about a 3-month lead time. So basically by the end of this year.
Okay, so past budget time,
Yes.
obviously.
Yeah, so we'll go through budget.
Yeah.
We'll kind of have an idea of how much money we are able to invest, and then go through starting in December, January with the actual investments.
Okay, and do we know now what kind of return or like reserves and cash accounts you're getting, or?
Not at this time. I
Okay.
don't know a whole lot, so.
Councillor Bates?
So the main question I have through to Director Vickers is, many times as we look at anything we're doing, we compare to other municipalities. Is somebody else doing this? And are the numbers that we're lowering and raising, are they consistent with what somebody else is doing?
Mayor Barkley, through to Councillor Bates. So we've done quite a bit of research of surrounding municipalities and their own investment policies, and we're very similar. They do range a little bit, but we are very similar to where kind of that middle mark is, as well as we did reach out to a number of banks and financial institutions, and they gave their feedback as well, and they recommended these specific numbers as well, so.
But we have never done this before, right? So my question is, like, there are adjacent municipalities or our size municipalities that are doing this that we know by name?
Like Sylvan Lake?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we reviewed multiple investment policies. I don't know the extent of their actual investment program is, but I do know that they have investment policies that are similar to this policy.
And then I guess the other question I'll have is, if we get to the point where we published this and we get various brokers coming to us, how do we, it's not going to be as easy as deciding who's going to rebuild the next street that we work on. How do we?
So we'll put a tender out, and we'll leave it out for probably 2 to 4 weeks.
Right.
We'll let anyone whether they're a bank, a financial institution, an independent broker, they would be able to bid on it and provide what they think in their tender, in their document back to us, and we will choose at that time which broker we want to go with. It will be a broker for the entire program for a period of time, right? It won't be this broker's getting $10,000, this broker's, it'll be the entire program for a period of, say, 3 to 5 years, or even less, depending on what we'd like. But
And it'll be, like, again, I don't feel qualified to pick that, so,
well,
like,
we'll do the tender and we'll make our recommendations to council on what we think that we should choose.
okay.
And if you're comfortable with that, then that's,
I'm just trying to understand
Yeah.
like, when we do a renovation to a street or whatever, we have an engineering firm help us. So we would just be relying on the various brokers' presentations.
that's correct. We
and
will be relying on
whatever
that, yes.
references that they bring in.
Yep, absolutely. We will have to rely on their expertise in that area, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Heistad?
Yeah, no, I just listening to everybody, and I trust the process through, Director Vickers and our team, that we'll be able to get down there where their recommendation will come forth on the RFP. And then anything that we're asking on the financial side of things, that you will be working with the, the broker. So I trust the process. Thank you very much.
Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, and through to Director Vickers. Thank you for your work on this. I appreciate the balance that we've achieved through this edit, and so I'm really happy about that. My question for you, though, is around 6, portfolio diversification and restraints, number 4. If the investment portfolio becomes non-compliant. So there's a process there that we can use to determine the purpose of evaluating the compliance to the policy. But are we going to put a period of time in there that will have to have it become compliant as opposed to going indefinitely non-compliant?
So Mayor Barkley, through to Councillor Wing, I believe that means if it, at the time when we purchased it, it was compliant, and throughout its years it became uncompliant, pending the length of that investment, we would likely just let it mature, and then at that stage, in the new investment, we would make it become compliant at that time.
You would likely also see a rebalancing of a portfolio every
Yes.
quarter.
Yes,
Right, so,
absolutely.
yeah. And, chances are we're going to be in bonds or GICs.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Be very safe for the
Yeah,
first
very
little bit.
safe, yes, yeah, for sure. Okay, so we'll have someone please make a motion that we approve the investment policy.
Mayor Barkley, I would make the motion to approve investment policy 2023-001.
Okay, all in favor? All right, carried. And we will move to 7.1, road closure with Director Jenkins, please.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. So we're looking to council today requesting final readings of bylaw 1696, being a bylaw to close a portion of 52nd Street Close, and the associated approval of the lease of this property to the adjacent property owner. So council may recall that we have received a request last fall from Innisfail Transfer, being the owner of 4215 52nd Street Close, to lease a portion of the adjacent roadway for the purpose of parking trucks associated with their business. Our sale and use of public lands policy outlines how such requests should be evaluated. So from there, we did initiate a road closure portion. So the subject lands form part of the roadway of 42nd Avenue. So this is a street that goes up towards Johns Manville and Discovery Wildlife Park. The right-of-way being very wide between 53rd Street Close and the CP rail line. So in order to facilitate the lease request, this portion of road needed to be formally closed. No town infrastructure is located within the roadway. So last fall, back in October, council approved first reading of the bylaw, and on November 28th held a public hearing. So from there, administration forwarded the required right-of-ways agreements along with the bylaws to the Minister of Transportation. On August 1st, the Minister of Transportation and Economic Corridors approved the bylaw, which now allows council to consider second and third readings of the bylaw. If the bylaw is finalized and approved, a title in the name of the town will be created for the property, and the town will be remain available for the town in the future should the space be required. So the land lease policy outlines how rents are calculated for these types of situations. Essentially, it's the annual municipal property tax multiplied by 2 plus a $100 administration fee. So for 2023, the annual rent on this, it's a 0.41 acre piece of property, would be $1,264.03. So at this time, we're looking for 3 motions from council, second and third reading of the bylaw, and then approval to enter into a 1-year term through the end of next December for the lease of the property.
All right, thank you, Director Jenkins. Can I please have someone make the first recommended motion for second reading? Councillor Bates.
I'll move that council grants second reading to bylaw 1696-2022, being a bylaw to close a portion of 52nd Street Close to public travel.
Thank you. I move that council grants third reading to bylaws 1696-2022, being a bylaw to close a portion of 52nd Street close to public travel.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I move that council approves entering into a lease agreement with Innisfail Transfer Ltd. For a one-year term through December 31st, 2024, in accordance with the sale or lease of public lands policy.
Turn that on. We'll move on to 7.2, request for decision, and I'll ask Crystal Chappelle, Development Officer, to come forward, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Administration has received a development permit application for the construction of dwelling units for the occupancy of the owner, operator, or caretaker. The dwelling units will include 2 separate living quarters with private and shared accesses as each unit to each unit, as the business is a family operation and the structure will essentially be a family home. The park is regulated as a direct control district. Direct control districts are created in accordance with the Municipal Government Act and provide council with the ability to regulate and control the use or development of land or buildings in any manner they consider necessary. This particular direct control district, A4, was created to provide site-specific development control to accommodate a zoo and ensure associated compatibility with adjacent land uses. Other development permits issued on this property include RV storage, a campground, various accessory buildings, including cabins, and the zoo operation itself. With respect to servicing, the proposed home will have electrical services, private propane gas servicing, a water well, and sanitary holding tanks. The access to the site will not change, and solid waste and mail will be part of the park's regular operations. A letter from the town's Director of Operational Services dated October 6, 2017, it indicated that municipal services would be an operational challenge to maintain and that the town would be in support of exploring the option of private services, provided final approval be at the discretion of council and subject to conditions. Likewise, current operations staff have no concerns to add. Setbacks are not specifically regulated in the DCD district. However, section 3.12.4 of the land use bylaw prescribes 22 meters or 66-foot setbacks from steep slopes near bodies of water. Waskasiu Creek runs alongside the west property boundary of the park and has a slope greater than 15% in proximity to where the proposed building footprint would be. As a condition of approval, staff will work with the applicant to ensure an appropriate setback from the nearby slope. In alignment with the Town of Innisfail's strategic plan, approval will support a robust and adaptable economy, specifically by fostering a healthy economic development ecosystem through supporting a local and regional agribusiness. Administration is in support of the application subject to the 6 recommended conditions and 5 notes as outlined in the attached draft development permit and recommends approval. And that is at the very end.
Okay. Good?
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Crystal.
You're welcome.
Does anybody have any questions about this? Just one question I have with respect to servicing. So are there already services, like, I know they're not town services, but is there already sewer and water there? Because there was a dwelling there before, or there is a dwelling.
There are currently sanitary holding tanks
Okay.
throughout the facility, and I think they would probably bring in additional ones
Okay.
to service the home and then.
Okay. Yep. Okay. All right. Councillor Heistad?
Yeah, I was going to make the motion.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I was just looking for it. Sorry, I turned off my computer. So, recommend a motion that council approve development permit 23D-067 for the development of dwelling units for the occupancy of the owner, operator, or caretaker with private services in the northwest area of Discovery Wildlife Park at 5400 42nd Avenue, Northwest 2735, 24W West 4, subject to the conditions in the attached draft development permit. So that's my
Okay,
motion.
Councillor Heist, or Councillor Wing first, then
Thank you,
Harrison.
Mayor Barkley. Through to administration, what is the status on the road leading into Discovery Wildlife? So we were requested last year to do some work along the west, going on the west side, running north-south for access, improved access when the light show was going on. Did we actually improve the road? Are they going to be able to get in and out of that property with what's there now?
Mayor Barkley, to Councillor Wing, I'd like to include Director Kennedy. It is left to the property owner to approach the town with any forthcoming proposals, ideas. We are willing to provide to a certain state based on the willingness and desire of the property owner. I don't believe we've heard, Director Kennedy, this.
Yeah, Councilor Wing, so we haven't done any road upgrades. We did work with Fortis though to get some street lighting put in there, so there is additional street lighting put down that road now. But that's as far as it's gotten. Yep.
Councillor Bates.
Well, just from personal knowledge of that facility, they can access it 2 or 3 ways from within their own property through the existing entrance. There's the existing entrance that was south of what they were talking about before.
Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. And this question goes through as more of a general question around strategic planning for the wildlife park. Has the proponent got an idea where he's going to be in 5, 10, 15 years at the park? Because I see this as starting to, you know, every couple of years we get more. We're going to plunk in 10 more units over here and 10 more over here. Now it's, this is a pretty elaborate structure here. You know, it's about 11,000 square feet or something. So I guess my question is, does he have a long-term plan? Is there going to be more residences, more facilities put on that northwest corridor down the road? Because that'll affect access, it'll affect water, it'll affect sewer, power, the whole 9 yards. So more of a question for, I don't know who, but has that been sort of talked about with the proponent? Thank you.
Sure, and I can provide a little bit there. So I do believe they do have long-term plans and do hope to expand. However, the direct control district is quite specific in terms of the nature of dwelling units that can be developed on it. So dwelling units can only be contemplated for occupancy by the owner, operator, or caretaker, as opposed to the cabins and those facilities that are within the campground. Council may recall when we did a review of the North Area Structure Plan a couple of years ago, the property to the north of the wildlife park was indicated potentially as future recreational type of use. So there is potential ability within our adopted plans for longer term expansion. But at this point, this is what we have in terms of insight.
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Bates.
Yeah, just looking at the diagrams, it's 2 1,200 square foot residences. It's not, yeah, they're small.
Okay, yeah, it's great to see this. I was down there on Friday morning, and it's actually a beautiful facility and brings a heck of a lot of people to our community, so grateful to have it. So we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? All right, carried. Unanimous. We will move into 8.1, correspondence and information. I just want to bring up again, congratulations to Director Jenkins on number 2, the PCP milestone recognition. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Sorry, you kind of flipped through the list there, Juanita. Can you go back to the top, Juanita, where the list of correspondence, there you go, thank you. Just wanted to point out the event number 5, so mark that on your calendars. It'd be great if all of council could come. And a sponsorship for the Kin Canada Dinner of Diamonds. So can we just scroll that down to that, please? I didn't see it either. Do we know the date of that dinner at all? Maybe we could have that on the agenda next time, as long as we don't miss it. And then, can you just scroll to the top again? Sorry.
That's easy.
Yep. Okay, so the, of course, regional gathering, we received an email from that for Sylvan Lake for September 21st at 6. The Red Deer Recovery Summit, if anybody wants to go, you can let Juanita know. There will be a $25 fee if somebody wants to go to that for the day. There's the Kinsman letter, Kinette's letter, I should say. It was hiding. So, okay, do you know what we did in the past? Anybody recall? 300? Okay. Okay. I please have someone make a motion then for a sponsorship. Councillor Heistad?
I'll make a motion to sponsor Dinner of Diamonds up to $300.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? All right, carried. So back to the recovery day in Red Deer. It's from 7:30 to 4, I believe. So the Red Deer City Council has adopted this system of recovery and have invited me to attend for the day. And I reached out to Rochelle, Mayor Ken's assistant, to ask if council could come, and you can, and anybody from the organization that has an interest, but you do need to register with Juanita. She has a link for Eventbrite. And I think that's it. So I'll just have somebody please make a motion that we accept the correspondence as information. I will make a motion that we accept the correspondence as information. All in favor? Okay, thanks. We'll go to council reports. We'll begin with Councillor Heistad.
Yeah, just off the top of my head, I'm at council right now, so as to the rest of the week, I don't see anything else on my agenda off the top of my head. So, and yeah, so I just want to thank CAO Becker. There's a couple things I emailed you on. Appreciate your correspondence. And that's it. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Bates.
Okay, so tail end of last week, I did go drop in on the open house that Karen Scarlett had, and then went to the Hillside Vibes and was again impressed by my own grandchildren. And unfortunately, they had to leave right away because they're still kids, and he had hockey and she had something else going on. So upcoming, the registration night tomorrow night. I have the Water Commission on Wednesday, and they've already kind of, I know it'll probably be approved at that meeting, but they're already picking October the 11th and 25th as their budget days that I would be involved in, and I would think that would usually be mornings. Yeah, I had another interesting conversation at coffee, and it was, we were talking about all of the, residential disasters of hail and fire and flood and everything else, and insurance broker Tyler McDonald was there, and he was just kind of informing the group of how important it is, and the insurance companies now are really focusing on the infrastructure of various communities, and that can have a huge effect on the residential insurance. So when we do some of these not so flashy fixes of our streets and our sewers and water and all that, it has a huge effect. I thought about it, and I mentioned it to the CAO, and I think a good way to see if we want to just get more informed would be to perhaps have administration contact him and just say, hey, because I asked him outright, would you be willing to present something like that? And he said, sure. but perhaps administration could contact them and determine a little more the substance of what could be presented, and then if it was deemed that it would be useful to us, we could potentially have a delegation by them, and of course, not have names of other communities, and he's not going to try and sell us insurance, I'll tell you that, but I think it would be beneficial to hear. He said that the insurance company's focus has changed huge in the last very few years, where they really are looking at municipalities and what is their potential for having claims.
So do you think, Councillor Bates, that, like, would it be wise for Todd to come here, or would it be better use of time for him to meet with, say, the senior leadership team, and where they can present our asset management plan? Like, where do they get their information about the shape a community is in? I'm curious about that.
And that would be part of what he could tell you. And if he, especially, so that's why I'm suggesting maybe admin to contact him and then develop what would be the best information flow. And if it's that way, then that's fine. If it's a delegation, that's fine.
Would you like to make a motion then to direct administration?
I'll make a motion that we ask admin to contact Tyler and just maybe assess what is the best way for the town to assimilate the information. If it's through the admin SLT, then that would be fine. Or if it's back to us, or that would be fine too. So
Perfect.
just contact and come back to us with a recommendation.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? All right, carried. Thank you. Anything else? No.
Turn the page, there's nothing there, so I guess I'm done.
Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. So further to the Chamber strategic planning session the last week of August, work has now begun on budget and operational planning. So we had several meetings last week relative to that. So that work is progressing quite nicely. I also attended Karen Scarlett's gallery tour at the Dr. George Camp House yesterday, and am absolutely loving the progress on the Poppy mural at the Legion. So that's a great project, and thanks to the Legion for that. This week I'll be attending the Community Registration and Information Night event tomorrow. Parkland Regional Library meets Thursday, and then planning on going to the Harvest Festival on the weekend.
All right, thank you. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Actually a very quiet week. The only thing that I've worked on is the strategic planning survey that's been sent out by Ian, and worked on that pretty much all weekend. A very interesting document. So I'm also going to the registration night tomorrow night, and I think that's about it. Thanks.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, on Saturday morning, I was at the 10-hole parade representing council. Great turnout as always, lots of fun and great weather, which was the best part. Also dropped in at the Innisfail bowling lanes for their grand reopening. I met Jeff and Jackie, so really nice facility, what they've done with that. So I understand he told me the town of Innisfail is coming there soon to have a little event apparently, so have fun. No, council's not invited. No, we'll go another time. I did tell him that we did go horseshoeing, so maybe we can go, well, I said pool, but anyway, okay.
I think those horseshoes might damage the lanes.
Yeah, maybe, no, yeah, no, it's really nice, and I hope they do well. Wish them lots of success. Also went over to the George Camp House to Carolyn Scarlett's open studio tour as per her invite to us, so that was good. And then went to Hillside Vibes on Saturday evening. As always, excellent music from the Bates kids, as well as Jace on the Case was wonderful. And sorry, I can't remember the name of the third band, but it was good. And a lovely evening. And then yesterday I went to Mary Latimer's 90th birthday party, which was at the United Church. I took a certificate from the town, and so it was a nice full CE hall, and her granddaughter had done a beautiful job setting everything up with food and cake, and so it was a nice afternoon. And that's enough for now. So open mic number 10. Would you have anything you'd like to say, share with us, Mr. King? Or
thank you, Mayor Barkley. Just the only
I'm going to get you to speak into the microphone, okay?
Just the only comment is that artist Karen, with some volunteers this week, will hopefully have the Legion finished by the weekend, weather permitting, less wind and that sort of thing. So down to doing poppies and stems on them and that sort of thing. It's truly impressive when it's going to be finished. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. And we will go to upcoming events, and I'll just have somebody make a motion that we accept this as information. Councillor Heistad?
Yeah, I'll make that motion for
thank-
upcoming events.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, and then we'll have a motion to go in camera, please.
I'll make that motion, Mayor Barkley.
Thank you, Councillor Wing. All in favor? Okay, and we'll just take